Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this little update video from me, Mr. Kerrioth. You're probably wondering where the hell I've been, where the hell has Hotfix been, where's Pubcast been, where have any of the videos that I'd normally do, where have they been for the last 2 weeks? Well, I'm about to tell you. Before you sit there and think to yourself, my god, Kerry, you look terrible. Why is your face such a horrendous colour? Are you dying of something? No, for some reason in the maybe 3 weeks since I last used this computer, the webcam has decided to lose all of its settings, so I look like I'm coming down with something dreadful and possibly terminal. But I'm not, don't worry, it's fine. It's just messed up webcam settings that I cannot for the life of me fix because I can't remember what they were. Hours and hours of experimentation awaits, but not right now because I need to do this video to let you know what the hell is happening. So, for those of you who aren't aware, we were expecting, my wife and I, not me and Sty, that would be ridiculous, my wife and I were expecting our first child, I say first just because there's always a danger, in February of this year. Exciting times, good times, 11th of February, plenty of time to get everything done, you know, sort out like a nursery, all that stuff, have the heating replaced in the house, which was done last week, plenty of time for all that to happen, not a problem. Things haven't quite worked out as we'd planned, no. And this also explains why I haven't been around. So 2 weeks ago today, in fact, on the 4th of January, we went for the 34-week check. Now, when a lady is pregnant, in the UK at least, I don't know how it works elsewhere, you have checks every few weeks to make sure the baby's all right, make sure the baby's growing, etc., etc. And Monday, the 4th of January, was one of those days. It was a 34-week check. So you have that, and then theoretically, 6 weeks later, the baby arrives. So we went for our check, as we were wont to do, and baby measured small. Baby didn't measure any bigger than she had at 28 weeks, and we were at 34 weeks, so that's a 6 week period where they were worried that there was no growth. The midwife was concerned. But she said, don't worry about it. It might be nothing. It could just be that, you know, she's squished up, she's scrunched up. And that's why I can't measure any bigger, because she's all curled up in a little ball. It's possible. My wife also had quite high blood pressure. Now, I put this down to having a cough and a cold, because we both come back from New Year's Eve with coughs and colds. So I was like, no, don't worry about it, it's fine. Midwife, pretty much the same. She said, well, you are ill, could be that, but go to the hospital just to be sure. This was at around 10 to 1? Yeah, 10 to 1 on the 4th of January. By 17 minutes past 4 in the afternoon, so a mere 3.5 hours later, in fact, our first daughter, Eve, was delivered after an emergency procedure. So it's been a bit of a time. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. Don't worry, though. Everything's fine. They're both fine. My wife was discharged from hospital last week. We couldn't come home because the heating was being ripped out and replaced, which I'd completely forgotten about. So thank God for parents and their memories, because if they hadn't let them into our house, that could have been awkward. The baby is also absolutely fine. We've called her Eve Rose, and she is currently only 2 pounds, which is kilograms in 1 kilogram or 2 pounds. I don't know which of those is imperial and which is metric. Whichever one you use in your country, it's that one. 2 pounds or 1 kilogram. That's how much she weighs. So she is tiny, really tiny. I'll try and stick a picture in the video if I can get them off my phone. She's fine though. First week was touch and go. Well, in fact, to be honest, for the first 4 or 5 days for both of them, it was quite touch and go. Basically what was happening was the baby was not receiving the sustenance that she required. She wasn't getting the air, she wasn't getting the food, she wasn't getting anything. So in an attempt to rectify this, Kat's body basically went into overdrive. So her blood pressure was really through the roof. If you're medically inclined, or you just want to Google it, the point at which they decided to deliver Eve and not delay any longer was when they had to give my wife some medication. My brain's not working. It's been a long 2 weeks. Some medication to bring her blood pressure down, because it was 182 over 130, which I'm no doctor, but a quick Google and the message that appears that simply says, visit a doctor right now, oh dear God, you're about to die, pretty much says it all. Having done that, baby's heart rate tanked, so they had to take her out. It's a good job they did, because it could have been bad otherwise, but it's not. It's all fine. My wife and I are both back at home now. We are in our nice, warm house. You will no longer see me doing Hotfix and Pubcast wearing a hat. because I have heating now. There's a radiator back. Wait, you can just about. Hang on. What am I doing? There you go. You can just about see it. Just see that gap there, little radiator. Oh, it's so nice. It's so warm in this house now. Um, so yeah, that is what's happened over the last couple of weeks. There's no point asking me how I am because I have no idea. At some point, no doubt, I'll realise what's going on and it'll all come crashing down. But for the moment, I'm plodding along quite happily. It's all good. Yeah. From this point forth, I don't really know how things are going to work. I want to get back into making videos. I intend to make a few videos this week. It's just a case of finding when to do them because my daughter's obviously still in hospital. She's only £2. She can't come out of the incubator. She's 6 weeks undergrown and 6 weeks early. The consultant at the hospital, the guy who's currently looking after her, the doctor who's currently looking after her, said that what happened with us is actually quite rare. They only get 1 or 2 cases of it a year. So that's nice. I don't know. But yeah, she will be there for quite some time. We have no idea how long, but she needs to put on a lot of weight before she can come home. She can breathe unassisted for a bit, but she needs help with that because, well, she's tiny. She's got little tiny minuscule lungs. And of course, at that age, which is what, minus whatever, technically 14 days old, she doesn't have any sort of immune system really. So a cold will knock her out for weeks, and if she gets any sort of illness, whether it's just a normal common cold or some sort of bacterial infection or something, which is always possible in a hospital because there's people coming and going all the time, she'll need to be put back onto a ventilator. So she'll have to be breathed for because when a baby is that small and that early, apparently what basically happens is when they get ill, they just stop breathing, which sounds bad. But it's not that bad in a way because she's being looked after and she's fine, and there's multiple doctors and nurses everywhere. So it sounds bad, but it's not actually life threatening. It just seems like it should be. So yeah, we're having to go and visit her every day. Obviously, one of the problems that this presents is that she's not close to us. So we are in one town. The town that we are in, the hospital does not have a neonatal intensive care unit. They just don't do that. It's not something that they're equipped to deal with. So we're in the hospital, like the next town over, which is probably about half an hour away, when you're not in rush hour traffic. So if you go at the wrong time, then you get caught and it takes ages to get to and from. And of course, you can't just go and see her for 10 minutes because she still needs to bond with you because she's 14 days old. She's starting to look around now, which is crazy to me because she shouldn't even be out at this point. She should still be, well, not to put too fine a point on it, inside my wife. And yet she isn't. She's out and she's looking around and she's opening her eyes and she's, starting to pay attention to things around her. Only a little bit, only a tiny bit. She's not some sort of super genius. She is still only about that, literally about that long. But yeah, we're obviously going to go and see her every single day until she comes out of hospital, which could be in maybe a month if we're lucky. Or it could be like 6 months down the line. It just depends. It depends on loads of stuff. How well she grows, whether any other complications crop up, whether she becomes ill at any point with a cough or a cold or some sort of bacterial infection or any number of the things that you can pick up whilst you're in hospital. All of those can delay it as well. So yeah, I want to get back into making videos. I intend to start making videos again. Whether they'll be quite at the same rate or the same frequency as they were, kind of remains to be seen. It just depends on how I can work things. I do fully intend for Hotfix and Pubcast to come back. Hotfix will most likely come back first. Me and Stein need to sit down and really work out what's going on, just because the last 2 weeks have been so disrupted that I just haven't been able to. Also, part of the reason that you don't know much of this yet, I've said things on Twitter, but far more people watch the channel than actually follow us on Twitter. There's a huge gap between the people who watch Hotfix and Pubcast and the other shows that we do, and the number of people who actually follow us on Twitter. So if you didn't know any of this, then I don't blame you because I've only been able to put updates on Twitter so far. Sty hasn't said anything because, much like last time I disappeared, although this time it's not because of me, it's because of something else. Well, it's not because of my illness, it's about someone else's illness, but they're still technically part of it. Whatever. He's been very understanding, very helpful, very good in that I basically just said to him, baby's arrived, see you when I see you, and he said okay, because that's just, what you do. And he hasn't said anything because it's down to me to say something, to share as much as I'm comfortable with, and let you know what's going on in a way that I feel is appropriate. And well, you guys support us so much, and you help us so much with what we do, and you follow what we do. It kind of feels appropriate to tell you exactly what happened. So that's it. Yeah. What we'll do is we'll get together, we'll sit down and work out when we can record Hotfix, when we can put it out. The schedule might have to change slightly because the visiting hours for the hospital for babies is very strict. You basically have to have your name on a list, and you have to be there with the parent of the baby. You can't go in by yourself, and you can only go in from 1 to 3 every day. Now, of course, my parents and my wife's parents, they work full time, Monday to Friday. So actually getting to see the baby is kind of tricky. Kat's parents, however, we can do it on a Thursday, which is great, except we normally record Hotfix on a Thursday. So we need to work something out. But Hotfix will come back, hopefully this week. If it doesn't come out this week, it's because something drastic has happened. So hopefully it comes out this week, please. And it should come out every week from this point on. I don't see why it shouldn't. I cannot see anything in the future that might stop that from happening. You might be sitting there thinking, I can think of a few things. I probably can as well, but I'm not going to, obviously, partially because I don't want to, and also because we have been told at this point by the consultant that we've been speaking to, by all the midwives, by all the nurses, that me and Kat, my wife, basically our daughter is out of the woods now. She's fine. She's not suffering any ill effects as far as they can tell. Apart from the fact she's really small, she's all right, and she's going to do okay. There's nothing, there's no sort of major thing that can happen from this point on, barring some sort of catastrophic bad luck, which, as the consultant says, if it happens, it happens, but it very rarely happens in his experience. And he can't really see any reason as to why she wouldn't just continue to grow and grow until we can bring her home. So hopefully Hotfix will come back this week. It will carry on over the next few weeks. I want to bring Pubcast back as well as soon as possible. Although when that'll happen, it'll probably be a couple of weeks before we find a way to do that, because hopefully you can understand that we need to sort of fall into a routine. My wife and I, this is very new territory. This is something we weren't expecting to happen. Well, in any way, I was going to say we were expecting it in February, but we weren't. What we were expecting in February was a fairly standard going to hospital, baby arrives, baby is looked after for maybe a couple of days, you and baby go home. That's what we were expecting in February. What we got instead was, well, what I've just said. It's not really the normal standard having a child experience. But we're dealing with it. We're finding ways around it. We're going to find a way to get into a routine. We'll work out, when we go and see her, because then that'll dictate when I can do work, when I can make videos, when I can do hotfix and all that stuff. And yeah, we'll just, once we've settled into routine this week, hopefully we'll be able to plan out and find exactly where we're going and exactly what I can do for the channel from that point on. It might take a little bit of time, but as I say, I'm really hoping to get Hotfix out this week, and I'm hoping to just carry on with it after that, and Pubcast will follow at some point after. It's just a case of finding a chunk of time big enough between all the other stuff. Because, of course, it's now not just the baby, but could do with getting the house ready as well. Don't have anything. Child safety locks on cupboards or anything. Don't have anything like baby gates or... Well, the nursery currently is storing cider, lager, wine, and a bottle of whiskey, and an exercise machine, an exercise bike, and a cross trainer. So that's no help. We're not. Are you going to fit anything in there? There's quite a lot to do. But anyway, I'm just starting to ramble now. That is what's happened. That is why I've not been around for a couple of weeks. If you were confused as to what was happening and you think to yourself, well, how do I know about stuff like this in the future? The answer is perfectly simple. You follow me on Twitter with @Kirioth, because then I will, I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, very sparsely. It's not been every day. It's only been a couple of updates over the course of the 2 weeks, but that kind of gives an idea as to what's happening. And yeah, I guess that's about it. I won't drivel on for any longer. I've got a couple of questions that I want to give you at some point, but I think for now I'll leave it at this. I'll try and keep it as comprehensive and short as possible, although it's already been 15 minutes, which is probably about 10 minutes longer than it needed to be. But there you go. That's what's happened, and things will hopefully be back to normal over the course of the next couple of weeks. I'll ease back into it. You'll start to see content again, and it'll be all good. And for those of you who already do follow me on Twitter, or who have picked up on stuff that Sty said over Twitter over the last couple of weeks, who've tweeted your support and you know that you're thinking about us, I can't really express the amount of gratitude I have for that. It did make a huge difference in the first week when things were very touch and go. You know, there's a couple of days at the beginning of 2 weeks ago when Eve was born, sort of the 4th, 5th, 6th, and sort of about half the 7th of January, that things did not look good for either of them. And your support during that time was absolutely incredible, and it gave me a boost that I think I needed. Yeah, but as I say, all is fine now. My wife is fine. She's recovered really well. Daughter Eve is doing really well as well. She is now moving about. She's looking around, starting to react to stuff, and hopefully within a couple of months we'll be able to bring her home. And if I thought I was sleeping badly now, then I'm assuming I'll sleep even more badly then. In the meantime, though, I'll continue to try making videos, and I'll see you on those. Toodaloo.